So today I'm going to show you how to get your drums from sounding like this to this. So today we're going to go through cutting up a drum loop and then a sub kick, drum tuning, and then finally a track stack. So here I have my original drum loop. I'm going to delete my mixed drums that I was playing to you earlier, and we'll just listen back to this now. So, you know, it's a good drum loop, but it sounds a little bit thin. I'm going to start slicing up this drum loop and trying to get a bit more control over it. And the way I'm going to do that is I have my scissors tool on right click or command click. And if I hold down Alt, a little shortcut for you is that wherever I place the mouse, when I hold down Alt, it splices up that loop into equal sized parts, which is very handy when you're working with things like drums. So I'm clicking up here to create just a copy audio track, and I'm going to call it hi-hats. And each of these hi-hats is on the offbeat here, every other clip. I'm just going to drag it down, solo this and have a listen. So that's the hi-hats on their own. And then up here we're left with kick and snare. So I'm actually going to rename this now, call it kick and snare. Now the more keen-eared among you might have heard there was a little click you can hear on the tail of the kick beat, and I don't like that. It doesn't sound very professional. And a simple way to deal with that is to just bring up this region menu, go into fade out, and I'm going to double click and just hit 10, and that just gives us a tiny fade out, and you'll hear now that that click is gone. So that's our drums tidied. Now the hi-hat for me was too loud, so I'm going to bring that down and then listen back. That sounds a bit better. I'm going to Alt, drag, copy these clips out. I'm a bit happier with that already. So one issue for me with this drum loop is that even though the kick has some thump, it doesn't have enough sub bass. So I'm going to bring up another instrument track and use a plugin by a company that's actually local to me in Belfast, Sonic Academy. It's called Kick. And it does what it says on the tin. It creates kick drums. So I have a few presets already, and this is one of my preferred ones. And what I'm going to do is just record in a little bit of MIDI. Okay, so that's sounding good to me. I'm just going to loop that out and I'm going to quantize it. Now I don't quantize all the drums I do. Sometimes I work with them by ear rather than quantizing them, but with kick drums it's important to have them really tight because they're the sort of soul of a house music track. So there's it quantized. I'm going to fix a few velocities. Again, it's about consistency with kick drums, I feel. So there's my velocities up. Okay, I'm happy with that. So quickly just going through how to work with this kick plugin. I'm using it to reinforce the kick rather than create a kick in its own right. So we need to think about what's missing in the original kick. What do we need to add that's not already there? So I'm immediately going to bring the click section down, which adds a click sound to the kick. That's already there in our original kick. And I'm just going to solo it. And immediately I'm going to take some of the attack out of the amplitude envelope because, again, we have a lot of attack in our original kick. me it's a little bit too high pitch at the moment, so I'm going to lower the pitch a bit. Just very tiny adjustments make a big difference on your kick. I'm quite happy with that. And boost the volume a little. Bring it in and out. And as you can hear now, if you're using large-ish speakers or good headphones, you'll be able to hear the subs. It's adding a lot of sub, so I'm quite happy with that. So the next thing to look at is a bit of work. I'm going to add some 909 toms, fairly classic drum machine. I'm quite happy to use Logic's own 909, which we can get through the EXS24 sampler. I'm going to go for mono because we don't need any stereo. Factory drums, electronic drum kits, and here's our 909. I've got some toms here. I'm just going to play in some MIDI. Okay, I found the tom that I like. I'm just going to hit record and we'll play in some MIDI. Now this is an example of something I don't want to quantize. When I was playing that in, I quite liked the feel of the first bar. I'm just going to have a little look at the MIDI. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, this is the point where we look at drum tuning. This is something that happens not just in dance music, but in rock music as well. They would tune a drum kit before recording, and it makes a big difference to just how the mix works, and it can help things along. So I'm going to isolate this tom, and I'm going to bring up the drive. I find by doing this, I can hear the musical pitch of the sound better, and it helps me tune it. And I'm going to solo the bass. And I'm going to use the coarse tune up here, boost it up by 1 semitone, and then use the fine tune to make it just right. And you'll probably be able to hear now that that's playing at the same sort of musical pitch as the bass. It's probably about an octave above. I'm going to bring the drive back down again, and that's going to give us a tom sound that's going to work better with our bass line. It'll fight with it less. Okay, that's pretty good. There's a little bit of extra work I'm going to do here using a great little plugin that's in Logic called Subbass. I use it quite a lot. It creates where an EQ boosts or cuts frequencies, the Subbass, it actually creates new frequencies, which can be a better way of working sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this frequency mix down to 0, which just means basically we have 2 generators in here. I'm only going to use 1, and I'm just going to solo it, and on the wet control I'm going to turn that up, and the dry is completely down. Now if you've got the right sort of headphones or speakers, you'll be able to hear the subs here. And I'm going to bring the dry back up, and I'm going to blend a bit of that sub in. And it's just adding a little bit of body to the sound. You can spend time working on the sound with these controls. I'm happy with it as it is, but it can be changed if you want to. Now that sounds good to me. Having boosted a little bit of that sub, I'm gonna roll off just a little bit of the low end so that we still have some of the new frequencies we've created in the higher bass area, but the very lowest ones, we're better to leave that job to the kick. Okay, that's good. That tightens up the sound just a little bit. So it's important when you're working with drums or just a mix in general to think about the whole frequency spread from top to bottom. At the moment, we've got a lot in the bottom end happening. It's a good idea to think what's happening in high frequencies, what's happening in the mids. Is it all happening? Does it all sound right? What's missing? What could I take away? And in this case, we could have more high frequency content in our drums. So I'm going to add another channel of drums, and this time instead of the 909, we'll go for Logic's 808. Factory drums electronic 808, and I'm going for 808 because 808 hi-hats are really lovely and fizzy and have lots of treble in them. Very pretty sound. That's good enough for me. I want that to be quite a tight rhythm, so I'm going to quantize it to 16th. I quite like the way that the velocities or volumes work on each of them. There's a slight groove to it, so I'm not going to change those. So if I mute that, you can hear that it fills out quite a lot of the high frequency spectrum and just makes the whole thing sound a bit prettier. And I have my hi-hats. I'm just going to change that to 808 hi-hat. I have them both here, and Logic X has its handy panning knobs sitting right there for you to use, and I think that's quite a nice thing actually. And I've just grabbed both of them and created a little stereo image, which is an important thing when you're working with drums. It's good to find ways to make the sound interesting. So using things like panning is a good thing to do. Just a bit of ear candy. Just playing with the levels a wee bit. So we're almost there. The last thing that I want to do here is to use a new facility that you can get in Logic X called the Track Stack, which there's an obvious equivalent in Ableton that's been around for a while, and this enables us to do a bus processing on the drums, which is a fairly common technique. So here we go. We will create a track stack and a summing stack, and this enables us to fold away our drums if we like. And Logic very kindly has given us a compressor and EQ, which is exactly what I wanted. How did they know? I'm going to bring up both of them, and this is going to give us some overall shaping for the drums. Compressor first. The settings here are quite good. I tend to up the ratio a little bit maybe for drums, maybe towards 4, and bring down the threshold just till we're tickling about 3 dB. That's a good rule of thumb. And something that's good to do with drums is to add a bit of saturation. Doesn't matter if it's tape or tube saturation or something to warm up the sound, and it glues the sound together and gives it just a bit more vibe. And in Logic there is a little hidden function, output distortion. If we hit soft, it's reasonably subtle, but it'll add a bit of flavour to the sound if we push our gain knob here. If I A-B, you'll hear a gain boost anyway, but try and listen to the frequency content and you'll notice it's a tiny bit warmer. It pushes the mid-range a bit harder, and that's a really good thing to do with drums, make them a bit crunchier, a bit more personality. Finally, I'm going to get my EQ. I'm going to move it into in what we call the sort of mid-range or high mids, 1-2K, and that's somewhere. That's an area where we're going to be affecting the snare, clap, and some other elements. and just boost them a bit. And it's going to give the drums a bit of overall attack, and a wide Q value to get a wide overall boost, just a bit of crude tone shaping. So I'm feeling pretty happy with that now. We've got a nice drum loop with a bit more personality, bigger frequency spread, and more sonic impact. So just to sum up, we started off with a drum loop that was nice but a little bit dry, a little bit dull. We spliced it up, we got a bit of control over the individual levels of parts, we added some sub bass, we added some toms, we did some drum tuning, bit of EQ, bit of panning, we thought about frequency spread, and then finished it off with a bit of bus processing.